Hello everybody, welcome to the Saroy channel. I've got a very exciting Bigfoot encounter for you tonight, and it comes from a man called Buddy, who had a wonderful experience and an incredible Sasquatch encounter, and he actually encountered many Sasquatches. So let's give the story a go and let's get started. He writes, "Hello Sarah and all your listeners. My Bigfoot encounter happened a year ago, and it was an experience that I shall never forget, even though looking back it seems almost as if it was a big dream. However, I assure you it was not. It all happened when I decided to take my BMW 310 GS on a 5,000-mile solo trip on the Trans-American Trail, which for your listeners is a motorbike ride on all the rural country back roads from Tennessee to the Oregon coast in the west. I armed myself with all the necessary provisions and set off. I'm the kind of guy that literally could live off-grid in a remote place like Alaska and not see a soul for months without a bother in the world. I have always been adventurous, self-reliant, independent and industrious. I enjoy my own company best and, of course, the natural world. I was very excited about my trip. It was an opportunity to drive down the dirt roads in the middle of nowhere with the breeze blowing on my face and watching the world go by on the back of a powerful engine. What could be more exciting than that? Now, I wish I could give you places, dates and times, but I cannot, because many of those details are a blur to me because of the concussion that I sustained many months later that has also affected parts of my memory. All I can remember are the details that I'm going to share with you now, that I really believe will not only blow the minds of you, but of your listeners as well. So keep your seatbelts fastened because we're going on a journey to Bigfoot country. Where I was, I do not remember. All I remember seeing was a herd of elk, and they appeared to be rattled by something that had run across the dirt road in the distance. They did not seem bothered by the roar of my engine. It seemed that something else had frightened them, and they were afraid and running across the road as fast as they could. It was almost as if they were being stalked by a lion or some other predator. I must admit on my bike I couldn't see too clearly what was going on, but I did continue down this dirt road, and my machine was vibrating under my thighs because it was a very uneven road, strewn with rocks and boulders. It was no easy drive, especially as the road was both muddy and wet. Before I knew it, my motorbike skidded on the road and literally rolled over something. I could hear the most enormous thud, as if I'd hit something really humongous. And then there it was lying on the road next to me, a huge elk lying dead. But surely I would have seen it, I thought, slipping in and out of consciousness. I could feel my head throbbing. It was just the most terrible head pain that I've ever had. My ankles were broken, my arms hurt, and my femur bone at the top of my leg was killing me for some reason. I could not get up. I was lying on the road, motionless, barely able to move. My breathing was laboured, even though I had not punctured a lung, but maybe it was the shock that was finally getting to me. Unbeknown to me, my helmet was flung off during the accident. Possibly I'd failed to put it on securely enough, but I had sustained some bruising on my brain. Of course, I did not know this at the time, which was why I was drifting in and out of consciousness the whole time. I woke up to find myself being lifted up in the largest arms you could ever imagine. My face looked down at two of the largest biceps I have ever seen, and they rippled with muscle. The arm hair was about 1.5 inches long, and it was fairly thick, but like a human's at the same time. I really thought for a moment that I was in the arms of a giant like King Kong. I did not feel any animosity from the creature. It kind of seemed like he was trying to help me. I could sense that I was weightless in this creature's arms. It was as if I weighed next to nothing to him. And believe me, I'm a hefty fellow of well over 300 pounds, so this creature was hell of a strong. I was placed away from the middle of the road to the side of the road. I guess the animal was putting me out of harm's way, and I was extremely grateful. If any car had come down the road, it is unlikely I would have been seen, and so I could have been instantly killed. The thought of that horrified me. But how was I going to get out of here, I thought. I cannot move a muscle. And the pain, of course, was excruciating. The creature left me in a safe spot on the side of the road and came back with tree trunks laying in his arms. He carried them across the road as if they were nothing, and believe me, they were big tree trunks. No man could lift that on his own, I thought, but they looked as if, but I think a man could possibly have dragged it out of the way, but definitely not lifted it up without some serious help. I suddenly realized what he was doing. He was creating a barricade in the middle of the road so that any driver coming down the beaten track or dirt road would need to get out of their car to drag the trunk to the side so that they could pass. If they got out of their vehicle, they would definitely see me and call for help. I suddenly felt more positive and more upbeat. Surely someone would come down this road and take me to hospital, because I knew I was in a bad way and I needed urgent medical help. I looked up at the animal and felt no fear, even though he was enormously intimidating in his appearance. Sorry about that. But I sensed an intelligence to him. You see, I think that although he was definitely not human, he possessed some human-like qualities that perhaps he saw in me. I do not think that he would hurt something that reminded him of himself, do you? The next thing I knew was that there was more of these creatures, and they all surrounded me. I think there were about 8 of them. The shortest one must have been about 6 foot tall, so they towered over me. I got the impression that they really had not seen many humans before, because they studied me curiously as if I was a specimen that was interesting to look at. The small one ventured closer to me and inspected my skin. I think he was surprised at how white I was, and that I had no real hair on my arms. Well, that's what I think he was thinking anyway. They chatted among each other, and it sounded like a strange language. Everyone seemed to know what the other was saying. It was extraordinary. I did feel like an unusual specimen at the zoo, being put on show as the eyes just studied me for a long time. They also were looking at my motorbike that they had now brought to the side of the road and was a total wreck. They fondled it like it was some kind of strange toy. All the time they chatted among each other, and then they all went, leaving me all on my own. As it got darker, I noticed a solitary Bigfoot standing 50 yards away from me. He did not move the whole night, but stood there like a statue the whole time while he was guarding me. Every so often there would be owl hoots and whooping sounds during the night, and sometimes this guard of a Bigfoot would respond by hooting back. The next morning I woke up to find all kinds of wild berries, strange roots, and things like that lying at my feet. I was famished and thirsty. I even ate the roots that seemed to satisfy my hunger and thirst and were surprisingly sweet to the taste. I've never seen these roots before or since, so I do not know what they were, but some of them tasted pretty good, like roasted parsnips, and another knobbly-looking root had a mango-like taste to it, but not nearly as sweet. Later that morning, a farmer found me lying on the road and called an ambulance, and I spent some time in an Oregon hospital. So from what I've learned, I must have managed to complete a great deal of my road trip. The trouble is, I cannot recount much of it, apart from the moments before and after the accident. I was in hospital for several weeks. I had a few operations to fix various broken bones, ankles, femurs and hips. Not good, I know. I also sustained a little bruising on the brain, but here is hoping that all the memory that I had about my road trip will return to me sometime soon. I have a lot to thank Bigfoot for. Please keep my details confidential. I'm only telling you my story because of your promises to keep my story private. With many thanks. Thank you so much for your wonderful story. Good night to everybody. Until next time, goodbye.